Hi everyone, this is Manner of Death. Thank you so much for tuning in for this video. I really appreciate all the support you've given me. This week's Manner of Death is homicide. Jason Nam. 31-year-old Jason Nam was a young man living in the Honolulu area when his life was taken from him. It was March 10th, 2006, around 4 p.m., and Jason was washing his car in the parking lot of his apartment building at 1709 South Beretania Street. While he was cleaning his car, a black Nissan Maxima sedan pulled up to the lot with 3 men inside. Jason and the men got into an argument, which ended with him being shot. The men got back into the Nissan and left the scene. That particular getaway car was found later that night at 9:25 p.m. on Mako Hilani Street near Kihuhiwa Street. It had been set on fire. The vehicle was actually a stolen car that had been reported as stolen since March 2, 2006, from the Mililani region. There is a police sketch of one of the suspected men, who was described to be in his 20s, 5'6" to 5'8" tall, and 160 pounds with black hair. He was also described as wearing a red bandana. The other 2 men are described as in their 20s, between 160 to 180 pounds, also wearing bandanas. The police suspect this was not a random act. If you have any information that could help solve Jason Nam's case, please contact Crime Stoppers at 808-955-8300. Gregory Yamada. Gregory M. Yamada was a 22-year-old young man living in Hawaii. On the morning of September 8, 1986, his body was discovered in a Cane Hall Road under the H1 freeway and Waikili overpass. He was beaten to death and most likely had been tossed from a car on the freeway. Later that day at 6:13 p.m., an unidentified man was seen in camera footage using Gregory's ATM card at the Waianae branch of Honolulu Federal Savings and Loan, also known as HonFed. To this day, the man remains unidentified and is a vital clue to what happened to Gregory. If you have any information that could help solve Gregory Yamada's case, please contact Crime Stoppers at 808-955-8300. Theodoro Javanaugh. Unfortunately, there is little known about this case, and I could only find one source, which is the official Honolulu PD website, which I will link down below. Theodore Javanaugh was discovered unconscious on May 15, 1989, in front of his apartment at 1015 North School Street. He was taken to the hospital where he died of his injuries. It was believed that he had gotten injured from a fall, but it was then determined that he had been assaulted. Something to note is that Theodore regularly was seen in downtown Honolulu and the North School Street area. Unfortunately, this case has not seen any updates in the years that have passed. If you have any information that could help solve Theodoro Javanaugh's case, please contact Crime Stoppers at 808-955-8300. Jubilee Lum. Jubilee Miley Lum was a 22-year-old woman living in Kalihi, Hawaii. She came from a large family and was the second oldest. From her young age, she had been introduced to street life and was described as hanging out with the wrong crowd and frequenting Chinatown. At 16, she had given birth to a child and at some point afterwards got into the drug and prostitution scene. She had a fiancé named Ambrosio Lazaro who claimed that they were in love, but she would not give up the street life. Miley Lum was very young when her life was tragically taken from her. It was 12:30 p.m. August 14, 1999, when some employees for a florist discovered Jubilee Miley Lum's body wrapped in trash bags in a trash can behind the Beretania florist on the 1200 block of South Beretania Street. Her body was bare of any sort of wounds, which is why a medical examiner determined she had died from asphyxiation or suffocation. Several witnesses came forward stating they had seen Lum the night before entering a light-colored Ford Econoline van in Chinatown. The van would have been manufactured from 1987 to 1990, and it had swing outside doors with windows on the passenger side. Apparently, Jubilee Lum's mother came forward to state that she had been 4 months pregnant, but there was no identity for the baby's father. Her death is closely tied to the death of Michelle Ann Bensinger, a 24-year-old woman who also worked in prostitution and who was found deceased in a field on August 10th of that same year. Her death was ruled as probably a homicide, but because of the condition of her body, no cause of death could be determined. There are other attacks that could potentially be linked to these two cases, but nothing has ever been officially connected. If you have any information about Jubilee Lum's case, please contact Crime Stoppers at 808-955-8300. Carl Sawyer. Carl Sawyer was a 16-year-old teenager who was a junior at Waipahu High School. He was described as being popular and well-liked by his friends. Unfortunately, his life was cut short. Police responded to a shooting on February 20th, 1976, behind 94896 Moloalo Street. There lay Carl Sawyer, who had been shot several times. Earlier that same day, he had been seen at the Waipahu High School Jackrabbit Carnival. Because of his well-liked personality, it was hard for police to find a motive for his killing. To this day, his case remains cold. If you have any information that could help solve Carl Sawyer's case, please contact Crime Stoppers at 808-955-8300. Myron Nakao. Myron Nakao was a 51-year-old man who had been out on the night of July 23, 1997. He was seen at a bar in the Ki'aumoku area, and this would be the last time he was seen alive. Later that night, he would be found on the sidewalk near Makaloa Street and Amana Street. Myron Nakao had been beaten and was in critical condition when he was taken to the hospital. He did not make it and died of his injuries. He had multiple contusions to his face, and it is thought that he could have been beaten with an instrument of some sort. He was not believed to have been robbed since his wallet and credit cards were not taken and were found at the scene. Since then, his case has remained unsolved. If you have any information about Myron Nakao's case, please contact Crime Stoppers at 808-955-8300. Harriet Isaac. Harriet Isaac was a 64-year-old woman living at a condominium on 4999 Kahala Avenue. Unfortunately, she was brutally killed at her own residence. On October 24, 1986, she was found in her home, beaten and stabbed. She had lived alone, and her neighbors did not report anything suspicious occurring before her death. Little else is known about her case, and there have been no updates since. If you have any information that could help solve Harriet Isaac's case, please contact Crime Stoppers at 808-955-8300. Efnet Haro. On November 10, 1999, Efnet Haro, a 45-year-old man who had been visiting his relatives at the Kuhio Park Terrace Family Center, was discovered with blunt head trauma. He was taken to a hospital but died later. It's thought he was walking between buildings, potentially to visit another relative at the family center. There is also some items of Efnet Haro's that were missing, so it is possible that he was a victim of a robbery, but that has not been confirmed by police. If you have any information about Efnet Haro's case, please contact Crime Stoppers at 808-955-8300. Edward Franklin Jackson and Frances Layne Labhart. Edward Franklin Jackson and Frances Layne Labhart were both Navy men stationed at Barbers Point Naval Air Station in 1975 in Hawaii. Their lives were tragically taken on March 23, 1975. That day, the Honolulu police were called to the scene of a car accident on Old Farrington Highway near Fort Reaver Road and Makakilo Drive. Both the men were killed by gunshot wounds. Apparently, one of their cars, a 1972 Chevrolet Caprice, had broken down on the side of the road, and the men had returned to attend to it when they were killed. The car they returned in was Francis Labhart's car, a yellow 1974 Pontiac Firebird with a black vinyl top. No further information has been released about their case, and it has remained unsolved to this day. If you have any information about Francis Labhart and Edward Jackson's case, please contact Crime Stoppers at 808-955-8300. Hello everyone, Manner of Death here. Thank you so much for watching till the end of the video. I just wanted to say, if you have any case suggestions or recommendations for me, please go ahead and leave a comment below on whose case you would like for me to cover. I usually take these recommendations and then put them into a video some point in the future. Thank you so much for everything, and I'll see you in the next one.